Welcome to the MoodMe channel. MoodMe is a new app that allows couples to share their moods, emotions, and desires. With over 400 moods to choose from, communication has never been easier than with MoodMe. MoodMe. There's a mood for that. And now for our featured mood. Welcome to our MoodMe channel. I'm Dr. Nicole Lunan, specialist in emotional intelligence and the CEO and co-founder of a new app called MoodMe. And today we're going to be learning about one of the moods featured on the app, the fear of abandonment. Now, this is a 3-part video series brought to you by MoodMe with the intention to shed light and increase awareness around the fear of abandonment and how it plays into a cycle that has the power to negatively impact your relationships. In this series, we will cover Lesson 1, what is the fear of abandonment and how does it play into a cycle? Lesson 2, a real-life example of how the abandonment cycle can tear apart relationships. Lesson 3, coaching tips and strategies about how to stop the abandonment cycle. The fear of abandonment is important to learn about because it can play in the background of your relationship life and wreak silent terror because you don't know that it's there and you don't know that it's impacting your ability to feel safe and to open up to love. Also, if you enjoy our content, please let us know by hitting the like and subscribe button. So what is the fear of abandonment and where does it come from? Well, in the past, you could have physically or emotionally lost a loved one, and you were taught that the world wasn't a safe place because at any moment, the people you love could vanish. And now you feel anxious or fearful to get close to others. The trauma you experience plays in loops when you open your heart and acts as a form of sabotage that pushes people away. And all of this plays into a cyclic, self-fulfilling prophecy. Abandonment trauma can be experienced at any age. It is created when one physically or emotionally loses a loved one, and as a result, doesn't feel that the world is a safe place for an open heart. This can be physical abandonment, losing a parent or someone close to you, divorce, through death, or emotional abandonment. Maybe a parent became depressed or disassociated or couldn't support you through childhood, or maybe your parent was working too much. Loss, especially as a child, is hard to deal with because we don't have the processing tools to work through why our favorite person in the world, who we trusted, could just vanish. So we end up doing this thing I like to call freezing, where we freeze pain and keep it frozen until we have the tools to deal with it, aka when we're adults. As adults, we still struggle with this concept of allowing our inner child to feel safe, healing the past, and working through the letting go process. Many think that the past is just the past and there isn't any use to go back and dwell. But I'd like to counter that thought and say, if you don't take the time to heal your past self, the trauma will come back and play into your present life. Our external life mimics our internal life. And to create a better life for ourselves, we have to take a look in the mirror and start from within. After we receive the trauma that caused the fear of abandonment, we start to subconsciously or consciously acting from this fear. Even if you do know that you have the shadow or fear, it's a tricky one to catch when it gets triggered. It acts quickly to protect you from the pain and begins pushing people away so that you don't get hurt. Sometimes good people that we'd be lucky to have in our lives, people who actually care about us, get pushed away due to fear. Or you don't try to love at all because you already have the self-limiting belief that it will end up in flames and pain. Now, I was able to sum up this whole complicated process in a cycle that I'd like to call the abandonment cycle. Today, we're going to use Jennifer as an example that will bring us through the abandonment cycle. And Jennifer's trauma is her father was a cheater, and therefore she was raised by a single mother with numerous boyfriends entering and leaving both of their lives, which will lead us into stage 1. Stage 1, the urge. Jennifer has sworn off relationships. She's given up on relationships. She wants to focus on herself. However, it's been 6 months since Jennifer has been touched, and she's going through a bit of a dry spell. She's starting to get this innate need to be touched and to connect closely with another. I like to call this stage the urge. Humans have an innate urge to connect with others, and also we are charged with this desire to procreate or engage in physical intimacy. So even though Jen has said that she doesn't want a relationship, she does have the urge to be physically connected with another. When Jen met Cameron and he asked her on a date, she said yes because she 100% believed that it would be solely to fill the urge for physical intimacy, which leads us into the next stage. Stage 2, casual dating. Jen and Cameron go on a few dates. They're going on casual dates, hiking, dinner, happy hour. They're learning about each other and seeing if they are physically attracted to each other. Jen is starting to ask questions like, should I let him in? Should I not let him in? She's not super afraid because she's being driven by the urge, nervousness, excitement, curiosity. This phase is all about convenience as nobody is really bonded to each other yet. She doesn't feel bonded to Cameron yet, so there's no commitment. She still feels safe to go and adventure. So swiping yes to Cameron, they begin to explore their physical connection, which turns out to be good. So good that they keep coming back for more. Now, I want you to pay close attention here because this is the part that people get pulled into the honeymoon phase. Stage 3, the honeymoon phase. The honeymoon phase is led by high physical attraction plus focus time and attention and flirtation. So even though Jen said she didn't want a relationship, her actions are speaking otherwise as she's diving in deep with Cameron physically and frequently. Therefore, they're spending more time together and focused attention on each other. At the end of the day, time dictates the relationship, meaning even though if you may not have a title, if you're spending many nights with a person, flirting, deep talks, engaging with each other physically, your heart may do this thing where it doesn't listen to your mind anymore and it says, yes, I'm in a relationship now. Jen is like, I don't know how I got here, but I like it here because it's fun and carefree. However, an emotional attachment is being created. You feel like you're on a natural high because you are on a natural high. You're high off dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. You pretty much took a hit of the happiest hormones that exist. So in the honeymoon phase, you will experience butterflies, obsessive lust and infatuation. You may light up around each other and spend highly focused attention on each other. The honeymoon phase typically takes a break or comes to a complete halt depending on the relationship, starting around 3 to 6 months. Now, every relationship is different. If you have a relationship with the possibility of longevity, it can come in and out of relationships depending on if the couple is working on the relationship or in more lighthearted and playful times. In whirlwind relationships, the honeymoon phase has a very distinct end, as I've witnessed once happy hormone-crazed lovers turn quickly into enemies. Stage 4, reality check. In this stage, real life with a new partner starts settling in as the happy hormone fog begins to fade and you get to see who it is that you are actually in a relationship with. What was once titillating and exciting is now more routine and stable. Stability for most can feel like a beautiful thing, but for those who were brought up into chaos and drama, this can be a little bit unsettling. In this stage, the relationship begins to take effort to maintain. You may begin to question if you want to do the work that it takes to maintain a healthy relationship. Work through your trauma, have the tough conversations, and support your partner's journey. Or do you just want to enjoy the fun part, like the passion and the romance? This is where the real hard work comes into play and where many whirlwind relationships fail, as it's not just about the fun stuff anymore. Real-world conflicts begin to arise, like work, family, friends, money conflicts. It's like the honeymoon bubble pops and external forces begin to interact with your relationships as you both slowly get introduced to each other's normalcy. In this stage, you'll also start to notice each other's imperfections. For example, maybe Jennifer leaves her stuff around the house and doesn't clean up around herself, or leaves a straightener on. Maybe Cameron snores a lot and it's hard for Jennifer to sleep and get rest. Whatever the imperfections may be, they become more apparent and noticeable and make you question whether you are compatible with each other and whether you can compromise. Arguments occur in this stage because you're taking two independent humans and attempting to merge their lives together. The happy hormone high works to buffer, and so does lovemaking, but this is a challenging process. Reality check is where tension begins to build. What was once focused attention becomes more spread out. Jennifer can no longer ignore her sister's request to spend more time with their mother, or Cameron's friends are missing him and wanting attention. They plan a weekend getaway for boys only. Instead of the attention being solely on Jennifer, like in the honeymoon phase, it is now going to become more spread out, which can come as a shock for someone who was used to getting all of their loved one's attention. At this stage, the emotional bond has already been created. All of those deep talks, great sex, and dreams of the future has bonded the two of you together, and there's no going back unless you like to face a great deal of discomfort. All of this creates pressure. And as we know, pressure creates diamonds. No great things come easy. It's going to take work. This is the reality of building a deep and beautiful relationship. Stage 5, the trigger. As I mentioned before, Cameron's friends are asking him to spend more time with them and go on a boys' trip. Cameron feels that he needs to pay attention to himself and people outside of the relationship, as he spent the last few months in the honeymoon phase with Jennifer and would like to balance his energy. Jennifer isn't comfortable with Rob going on a boys' trip. She doesn't really know his friends, and I'm sure you can imagine all the dark stories and situations Jennifer has thought up, especially with her abandonment wound of her father being a cheater and leaving. Consciously or subconsciously, this is how she was taught that people in a relationship act. Jennifer isn't a good or bad person for her wound being triggered. I think we've been taught to look at fear and insecurity as these horrible monsters, as if we should feel shame or guilt for having them. The truth is, we all have them, and we do best to stop judging ourselves, because it is judgment and shame that keeps these shadows lurking and getting stronger. A combination of Cameron agreeing to go on the boys' trip and Jennifer's learning of how relationships work when she was a child re-triggers the abandonment shadow, and it comes knocking. Let's see if Jennifer will open the door. Stage 6, the reaction. Once you open the door to the abandonment shadow, it begins wreaking havoc on your mind and your body. Imagine a dark cloud entering through the temples of your mind and spreading, therefore taking the driver's seat of your life. Your fight or flight instinct is triggered because you ultimately feel that you are in danger. It doesn't matter if you're physically or emotionally in danger. Your fight or flight instinct can still be activated. You are filled with distrust and questioning whether your partner really cares about you and wants to be with you. Memories of the past are beginning to resurface as your inner child becomes scared and doesn't want to get hurt again. Jennifer is internalizing Cameron's want to spend time with his friends alone as a sign that he doesn't like her anymore or that he's looking for attention elsewhere. Now she's feeling unworthy. Cameron begins to sense that a shift is happening in Jennifer as she starts acting differently. Stage 7, dark manifesting. Jennifer is overthinking, overanalyzing, and using her dark imagination to create stories based solely off of fear. She can't see clearly what's happening because she is having an internal battle with the fear of abandonment. The fear of abandonment is telling Jennifer, this relationship isn't going to work and don't trust Cameron. It's persistent and hard to ignore, and it becomes hard for Jennifer to truly focus on anything else. The shadow finally wins the battle, and Jennifer internalizes that Cameron is going to cheat on her on the boys' trip. She's made up her mind that it's going to happen, and so she begins acting like it has already happened. If you fear that your partner will do something and then begin acting like your partner is going to do it, then your partner might actually do it. Our minds are powerful and have the ability to bring thoughts into reality. Stage 8, sabotage. Sabotage stage is a sad one because this is where the instinct, knee-jerk, get away from me impulse happens and can ruin even the best of relationships. The level of sabotage depends on each individual's trauma and impulse control. You can get something mild like a passive-aggressive, fine, I'm not going to text him then, or an extreme one like, fine, I'm going to cheat on him first. This is a good chance to ask yourself what your sabotage style is. We all talk about love languages, but what about when we act out of fear? How do you consciously or subconsciously push other people away? You may not be intentionally trying to ruin the relationship, but your fear of abandonment shadow is pulling all the strings, whispering that you need to ruin this relationship because this person is going to leave and hurt you. The fear of abandonment shadow is a trickster and should not be trusted. Once Cameron was on the trip, Jennifer could smother, be clingy, or controlling, demand that Cameron text and call her all the time instead of allowing him space to enjoy with his friends. Jennifer could act petty, She could go to the bars, take cute pics, make him jealous, get back at him that way. She could be passive aggressive, show her aggression by doing small things without saying that she's annoyed, because that always works well. She could cause drama and say, hey, you know that thing that you did 2 months ago? I didn't like that thing, and start a fight to pull in Cam's attention and ruin his time away. Jennifer could cheat. She could find a guy at the bar, go home with him, and that would easily ruin the relationship. She could emotionally manipulate, guilt trip Cameron. If you loved me, you would have taken me with you. She could try to change Cam's mind and character by asking him not to go, and Cam could not go and submit to her request, which would ultimately cause resentment in the end. Or she could just break up with him, which leads us into the final stage. Stage 9, the burn. Jennifer decides to go to the bar, flirt, take cute pics with boys in the background, then gets too drunk and picks a fight with Cameron. Cameron is angry because he spent all this time text fighting with Jen instead of enjoying his vacation with his friends, and his friends greatly dislike Jennifer now. They begin questioning why he's in a relationship with somebody who's so immature and selfish. They encourage him to abort mission, which places major doubt in his mind about Jennifer. Cameron comes home and then pulls away from Jennifer, which in return makes her fear of abandonment shadow grow even larger and sets off more sabotaging techniques within Jen. Cameron then decides that the relationship is too much for him to deal with and ends it, which in return makes Jennifer trust in the lesson that she learned as a child. She trusts the phenomenon that anybody she lets in will leave, because it's a cycle she's seen play out over and over again. The fear of abandonment shadow is triumphant once again and has been fed. Therefore, it grows bigger. Still, Jennifer is unaware of this shadow, and instead of looking deeper into herself and her patterns and taking ownership, she blames Cameron and puts herself in the victim position. This is Cameron's fault. He's a liar. If he loved me, he wouldn't have left me like he did. A healthy relationship, no matter what trauma you have, you will have to lay your ego down and take a good look at it. We all have relationship patterns that can be improved. And once we can just say that out loud, healing becomes that much easier. Unfortunately, Jennifer does not stop to look deep within and goes to Palm Springs with her friends, meets another very handsome guy with a cute smile. Then the urge comes knocking and she starts the abandonment cycle all over again. So how can you stop the fear of abandonment cycle? I have the answers to your question in video number 3 of the Fear of Abandonment series. But first, please watch video 2 as we follow Kylie and Ryan through the abandonment cycle. This video highlights a detailed and real-life story of how the abandonment cycle could play out and impact relationships.